The night was dark, and the rain fell incessantly on the deserted road. The cold wind cut like sharp blades, and the silence was broken only by the sound of water hitting the asphalt and the occasional distant thunder. Thomas gripped the steering wheel tightly, his eyes fixed on the wet road ahead, while his thoughts drifted far away. He had felt alone for years, a feeling that had become a constant shadow in his life. That night, more than ever, he questioned if his existence had a purpose. He felt like a ship adrift, lost in an ocean of solitude. But fate, always unpredictable, was about to change everything. Then his headlights illuminated something on the shoulder of the road, a curled-up silhouette, motionless under the storm. His heart raced. As he got closer, he realized it was a dog, a German shepherd, soaked, covered in mud and blood. The animal trembled, its eyes wide with pain and fear. Thomas felt a tightness in his chest. For a moment, he hesitated. He wasn't the kind of person who got involved in other people's problems, but something about that dog wouldn't let him just drive away. Without thinking twice, he slammed on the brakes, got out of the car, and ran to the animal. He knelt beside the dog, feeling the cold rain soaking his clothes. "Hey, buddy, you're going to be okay," he murmured. Gently, he ran his hand over the dog's wet fur, feeling its body shiver. The dog panted, exhausted, its eyes locked onto Thomas's as if pleading for help. Thomas knew he couldn't leave him there. He picked up the animal in his arms and carried him to the car. The dog didn't resist. He just closed his eyes, drained of energy. On the way home, Thomas glanced at him from time to time, realizing that this encounter was not just a coincidence. Something inside him told him that this dog would change his life forever. Attention! To keep receiving heartwarming stories about incredible animals and support our work, like this video and subscribe to the channel. Thomas arrived home and carefully carried the dog inside. He grabbed clean towels, warmed some water, and began cleaning the animal's wounds. He noticed that the dog was injured, but his breathing was steady. "You've been through a lot, haven't you?" he murmured, running a warm cloth over the dog's fur. The dog opened his eyes and, to Thomas's surprise, licked his hand. That small gesture caught him off guard. A simple touch, yet filled with gratitude. Something shifted in that moment. Days passed, and Thomas realized that caring for the dog had brought an unexpected meaning to his routine. He was no longer just a lonely stranger. Now he had company, a reason to wake up in the morning. He fed the dog cooked meat and rice, set up a cozy corner in the living room, and little by little watched the transformation happen. The dog's once sorrowful eyes now held a peaceful expression. His gaze was brighter. That was when Thomas decided to name him Max. "I think you look like a Max," he said, scratching behind his ear. The dog looked at him and wagged his tail as if approving the name. As weeks passed, Max started following him around the house. When Thomas sat on the couch to watch TV, Max would lie at his feet. When Thomas left the house, the dog patiently waited by the door until he returned. The bond that formed was something Thomas never expected to feel. Max brought a comfort he didn't even know he needed. But happiness was abruptly interrupted. On a cold morning, Thomas woke up and felt something was wrong. The silence was strange. Max always greeted him with excitement, but that day, there was no sign of him. His heart raced. He called for the dog, searched the house, checked the backyard. Nothing. Max had disappeared. Anguish took hold of Thomas. He searched the neighborhood, asked the neighbors, put up posters, but there were no leads. That dog had filled a void in his life, and now he felt like he had lost a part of himself. Time passed and hope became a distant memory, but fate still had plans for Thomas and Max. Do you believe that animals can sense when someone changes their lives? What do you think about the bond between Thomas and Max? Leave your opinion. Years passed, and Thomas's lonely routine continued. The absence of Max still weighed on his heart, but he had learned to live with the loss. Time softened the pain, but it never filled the emptiness. He thought of Max every time he saw a dog on the street, when he woke up alone, or when he came home to the same silence as always. Life went on, but without color, without that loyal companion who had brought him joy for a brief time. It was a night like any other. Thomas was having dinner in front of the TV when he heard a strange sound. At first, he thought it was the wind, but as he paid closer attention, he realized it was a scratching noise at the door. His heart pounded. He got up slowly, hesitant. It had been years since anyone knocked on his door at that hour. When he opened it, he froze. There on the doorstep was Max, but he was different. The dog now looked bigger, his posture more imposing, and his eyes carried a silent message, as if he knew something that Thomas had yet to understand. In his mouth, he held a crumpled envelope. For a moment, Thomas couldn't move. His mind struggled to process what he was seeing. Was it really Max? How could he have returned after so long? How did he still remember the way home? The only certainty was that this wasn't a dream. The dog dropped the envelope on the ground and waited patiently for Thomas to pick it up. With trembling hands, he opened the paper and found a short but unsettling message. "Thank you for saving him. Now it's your turn. Follow him." Tell us, from which part of the world are you watching? We love reading your comments and knowing how far this story has reached. If you enjoy touching stories like this one, like the video and turn on notifications. And you, are you ready to meet the hero that will touch your heart? Click now and find out. See you in the video.